The conference chamber floated in the darkness between stars, a massive structure built from alloys that could withstand the void. Inside, 12 different species gathered around a circular table that adjusted its atmosphere for each delegate. Some breathed methane, others required pressure that would crush a human flat, but the table's technology kept everyone comfortable in their own section. Senior Archivist Kelthrin stood at the center podium, his 6 limbs shaking slightly. He had been an archivist for 300 cycles, excavating the ruins of dead civilizations across the galaxy. In all that time he had never seen anything like this. "Council members," he began, his voice translated into 12 different languages simultaneously. "I have disturbing news from the archaeological sites." Research Director Vixenel, a reptilian creature covered in dark green scales, leaned forward in her section. "We received your emergency summons, Kelthrin. What have you found?" Kelthrin activated the holographic display. Symbols appeared in the air above the table, glowing softly in the dim light. They were written in dozens of different scripts, from civilizations spread across thousands of light years and spanning 12,000 years of galactic history. "These are the final messages from 47 extinct civilizations," Kelthrin said. 47 different species, all of them dead now. Some died 10,000 years ago. Others fell just 300 cycles past. They lived in different parts of the galaxy. They never met each other. They had completely different technologies, cultures, and beliefs. And yet, Council Member Thexvar prompted, his crystalline body chiming softly as he moved. And yet they all left the exact same warning. Kelthrin pressed another control. The symbols rearranged themselves, showing translations in the common galactic language. The chamber fell silent as every delegate read the messages. "Beware the sleeping world. Do not wake the third planet of the yellow star. Earth sleeps but it watches. The sleeping predator waits in the dark. They close their eyes but never stop hunting." The messages went on, 47 variations of the same terrifying warning. Vixenel's scales rippled with concern. "This is impossible. These civilizations existed thousands of years apart. Some of them on opposite sides of the galaxy. How could they all warn about the same thing?" Kelthrin pulled up a star chart. A small yellow star appeared, highlighted in red. Every single warning points to the same location. The Sol system. Specifically the third planet. Earth. Thexvar's crystalline form flickered with confusion. "Earth? The primitive world? I reviewed their status just last cycle. They barely have chemical rockets. They fight wars with metal projectiles and explosive devices. Half their planet doesn't even have reliable energy infrastructure." "Correct," Kelthrin confirmed. "They are listed as a pre-contact civilization. No faster-than-light capability. No energy weapons. No planetary defense grid. By our standards they are ancient history. A species still struggling to leave their own atmosphere." "Then why," Vixenel asked slowly, "would 47 advanced civilizations warn about them? Some of these extinct races had technology beyond our own. The Velkari could move planets. The ancient Thras had weapons that could ignite stars. Why would they fear a species that still burns fossil fuels?" Kelthrin manipulated the display again, showing images of Earth taken from long-range orbital surveys. A blue and green world, covered in water and vegetation, with scattered lights indicating primitive cities. "That is exactly what we need to understand." Another council member spoke up, a being of pure energy contained in a magnetic field. "Perhaps humans were once advanced and regressed. Maybe they had an empire that collapsed." "We considered that," Kelthrin replied. "But we have analyzed their entire planetary history through deep-scan archaeology. They have never been spacefaring beyond basic satellites. Their evolutionary record is clear. They developed on that world and they have stayed on that world. They are exactly what they appear to be." "Then the warnings make no sense," Vixenel said. Kelthrin's limbs twisted in what his species considered a gesture of uncertainty. "Unless the warnings are not about what humans are. Perhaps they are about what happens when you interact with them. Or what they become when threatened." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some delegates argued the warnings were coincidence. Others suggested the data was contaminated. A few wanted to quarantine the Sol system immediately, even without understanding why. Thexvar's chiming voice cut through the noise. "We need information. Real information, not speculation based on ancient warnings from dead races who cannot explain themselves." "What do you propose?" Vixenel asked. "A research mission," Thexvar said. "We observe Earth. We study these humans from orbit. We use our best stealth technology so they never know we are there. We determine if there is any validity to these warnings, or if we are simply seeing patterns and random noise. Kelthrin nodded eagerly. Exactly what I was going to suggest. A small science vessel, completely undetectable to their primitive sensors. We watch, we record, we analyze. If humans are truly harmless, we file a report and forget about this. If there is something we are missing, we discover it before making official contact. The debate continued for hours. The cautious members wanted to leave Earth alone, to respect the warnings even if they did not understand them. The curious members argued that knowledge was worth the risk. How could the Council make informed decisions if they ignored entire planets based on ancient superstitions? Finally they voted. 15 members in favor of the research mission. 9 against. The mission was approved. Kelthrin began assembling his team immediately. He chose scientists from 8 different species, experts in biology, sociology, technology assessment, and xenopsychology. They would take the research vessel Quiet Observer, equipped with the most advanced stealth systems in the galaxy. As the team prepared for departure, Vixenale approached Kelthrin privately. You really think this is safe? Kelthrin looked at the star chart at the small yellow sun where Earth orbited. 47 civilizations left warnings. 47 apex predator species, all of them the most dangerous creatures on their homeworlds, all of them advanced enough to span star systems. And all of them are dead now. That is not an answer to my question. No, Kelthrin admitted. But I need to know why. I need to understand what could frighten that many powerful species. What could make them all leave the same warning about a primitive world covered in water and small mammals? Vixenale was quiet for a moment. Just be careful, old friend. Sometimes warnings exist for good reasons. That, Kelthrin said, is exactly what I intend to discover. 3 days later, the Quiet Observer departed for the Sol system, carrying a crew of scientists who believed they were investigating a mystery. None of them realized they were about to learn why every species that encountered humanity left the same warning before they died. None of them understood that Earth did not sleep at all. It was simply waiting, with eyes that never truly closed, for someone foolish enough to get close. The Quiet Observer hung in orbit above Earth, completely invisible to the primitive detection systems below. Vixenale stood in the observation deck, watching the blue planet slowly rotate beneath them. From this distance it looked peaceful, even beautiful. Initial scans complete, announced Petrick, the ship's xenobiologist. He was a thin creature with 4 arms, perfect for manipulating multiple instruments at once. I have never seen anything like this. Vixenale turned from the viewport. What did you find? Petrick brought up a holographic display showing neural activity patterns. These are human brain scans taken during their sleep cycle. I have been monitoring a city of approximately 8 million humans for the past 6 rotations. And? Vixenale prompted. They never turn off. Petrick's voice carried a note of confusion. Every other species we know enters a dormant state during rest. Neural activity drops to minimal levels. The brain performs basic maintenance, processes memories, but mostly it shuts down to conserve energy and repair cellular damage. He highlighted several scans showing human brains lit up with activity. Humans do not do this. When they sleep, their brains are almost as active as when they are awake. Sometimes more active. Vixenale studied the scans carefully. What are they doing? What is all this activity? That is the disturbing part, Petrick said. He pulled up more detailed analysis. I isolated the specific regions showing activity and compared them to what we know of human brain function. These areas control motor planning, threat assessment, tactical thinking, and combat response. Another scientist, a floating jellyfish-like being named Soral, drifted over to the display. You are saying they think about fighting while they sleep? Not just thinking, Petrick corrected. They are running simulations. Watch this. He showed them a recording of neural activity over time. The patterns shifted and moved like a dance, lighting up different regions in sequence. This is a human named Tom, a shopkeeper in a city called London. He has never been in military service. He has never been in a physical fight. But watch what his brain does for 8 hours every night. The display showed Tom's brain running through scenario after scenario. An intruder breaking into his shop. A predator attacking him on the street. A natural disaster forcing him to escape his building. In each scenario, his motor cortex activated as if his body was actually moving, practicing responses, testing different solutions. He is training, Vixenale whispered. While he sleeps, he is training for threats. Every human does this, Petrick said. Every single night. I have scanned thousands of them. Children, adults, elderly. All of them. Their brains never stop preparing for danger. Soral pulsed with concern. This is a known phenomenon. Humans call it dreaming. They have written extensively about it in their literature and scientific papers. They believe dreams are random, meaningless images produced by memory consolidation. They are wrong, Petrick said flatly. There is nothing random about this. I have analyzed the patterns. Humans are not just experiencing random images. They are running combat simulations, survival scenarios, and problem-solving exercises. Their subconscious minds are training them every single night. Vixenale felt a chill run through her scales. What else have you found? Petrick pulled up more data. Human sleep is divided into cycles. They go through several stages each night. But even in their deepest sleep, their sensory processing never fully shuts down. Watch this. He showed them a recording from a human home. A woman named Claire lay in her bed, completely still, eyes closed, breathing slowly. Every scanner indicated she was deeply asleep. Petrick increased the audio gain on the recording. A small sound occurred in another room. Just a creak, barely audible. Instantly, Claire's brain activity spiked. Her neural patterns showed immediate threat assessment. The sound was analyzed, compared to known dangers, and classified as non-threatening. All of this happened in less than 2 seconds. Claire never moved, never woke up. But her brain had been fully aware. They monitor their environment constantly, Petrick explained. Even in deep sleep, their brains are listening, analyzing, categorizing every sound and sensation. If anything registers as a potential threat, they can wake and respond in seconds. How fast? Vixenale asked. Petrick showed another recording. A human named George sleeping in his home. A door opened unexpectedly in another room. Before the door finished opening, George was awake out of bed and moving toward the sound. The entire response took 3 seconds. Impossible, Soral breathed. Most species require minutes to achieve full consciousness after deep sleep. Some require hours. Humans evolved as persistence hunters on their world, Petrick said. They chased prey for days until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. But they were also prey for large predators. They needed to be able to sleep to recover energy, but they could never afford to be truly unconscious. So they evolved this. He gestured at the neural scans. A brain that never stops watching. Never stops planning. Never stops preparing for the moment when they need to run or fight. Vixenale studied the data in growing horror. This means every human on that planet is essentially training for warfare every single night. For their entire lives. From birth to death, they practice combat and survival scenarios for 8 hours every day. Correct, Petrick confirmed. A human who has lived 40 years has spent over 100,000 hours running combat simulations in their sleep. Even if they have never been in actual danger, their brains have practiced thousands of different scenarios. Soral drifted closer to the viewport, looking down at the glowing cities below. No wonder the warning spoke of sleeping predators. They are not sleeping. Not really. They are training. Another crew member, an insectoid engineer named Crix, entered the observation deck. I have been analyzing their military infrastructure and defense systems. The patterns are strange. Strange how? Vixenale asked. Their weapons are primitive but incredibly redundant, Crix explained. They have multiple backup systems for every defense. Alternative command structures. Distributed military leadership. It is as if they designed everything expecting to operate while partially disabled or unconscious. Petrick nodded slowly. Because they did. Humans can function effectively even when exhausted, injured, or partially aware. Their military doctrines account for soldiers who are sleep-deprived, wounded, or operating on instinct alone. They call it training, but it is more than that. It is the way their brains naturally function. Vixenale looked at the peaceful planet below and felt genuine fear for the first time in her long career. 47 civilizations had left warnings about Earth. 47 advanced species, all of them extinct now. And here she was beginning to understand why. Recommendations? She asked quietly. Petrick closed the neural scan displays. We need to be extremely careful. These are not primitive creatures who happen to be dangerous. These are apex predators who evolved to be aware even when unconscious. Every human down there is a trained combatant, whether they know it or not. Should we abort the mission? No, Petrick said. We need more data. But we need to understand something clearly. If we make contact with humans, we cannot assume they are harmless just because they appear to be sleeping or unaware. They're always watching. Always preparing. The warnings were right. Earth only pretends to sleep. Council member Thexvar arrived on the Quiet Observer 3 weeks into the mission, bringing with him a diplomatic team and new orders from the Galactic Council. Vixenelle met him in the docking bay, her scales already showing signs of stress. "You should not be here," she said immediately. Thexvar's crystalline body chimed softly as he moved past her. "The Council has reviewed your preliminary reports. They believe you are being overly cautious. These humans are primitive. The warnings are clearly exaggerated. Did you read Petrick's neural analysis?" Vixenelle followed him through the corridors. "Did you see what their brains do during sleep?" "I saw data that can be interpreted many ways," Thexvar replied. "The Council wants direct contact. We need to establish diplomatic relations before some other species claims this system. Earth has valuable resources and a large population. They could be useful allies. They could be dangerous. They are barely spacefaring," Thexvar said dismissively. "We have weapons that could sterilize their planet from orbit. We have shields they cannot penetrate. We have technology they will not develop for thousands of years. What exactly do you think they can do to us?" Vixenelle had no answer for that. On paper, Thexvar was right. Humans had nothing that could threaten a galactic-level civilization. Their most powerful weapons were fusion bombs that could destroy cities. The Quiet Observer could destroy continents without working hard. "When do you want to make contact?" she asked finally. "Tonight," Thexvar said. "I have selected a small settlement in a region they call Montana. Population of approximately 300 humans. Remote location, minimal communication infrastructure. We land, we introduce ourselves to the local leaders, we establish peaceful intentions. Simple and clean. You want to land at night?" Petrick had been listening from a nearby station. "That is the worst possible time." "On the contrary," Thexvar said. "Night is perfect. Most of the humans will be asleep. We minimize panic and chaos. We can speak calmly with whoever is awake and establish protocols before the general population even knows we are there." "You do not understand," Petrick started, but Thexvar cut him off. "I understand perfectly. You have spent too long observing and not enough time acting. The Council has made its decision. We make contact tonight." 6 hours later, the diplomatic shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere. Thexvar commanded the mission personally, bringing 4 other diplomats and 2 security officers. The shuttle was small but impressive, covered in smooth metal that reflected the moonlight. They had disabled the full stealth systems. They wanted to be seen eventually. Just not yet. The settlement appeared below them, a cluster of small buildings arranged around a central square. Lights were minimal. Most structures were dark. The shuttle's sensors detected approximately 290 humans, almost all of them showing the neural patterns of sleep. "See," Thexvar said. "They are unconscious. This will be simple." The shuttle landed in an open field just outside the settlement, its engines humming softly as they powered down. Thexvar and his team disembarked, their universal translator devices activated and ready. The night air was cool and smelled of growing plants. It was peaceful. "Approach the largest building," Thexvar ordered. "That appears to be their community center. We will wait there for someone to notice us and come investigate." They walked across the field toward the settlement. The grass crunched softly under their various appendages and limbs. Lights glowed in a few windows, but most buildings remained dark. Everything was quiet except for the sound of insects and a few nocturnal animals. They had taken perhaps 50 steps when Thexvar noticed something strange. The insects had stopped making noise. "Wait," he said, but it was already too late. Lights blazed on throughout the entire settlement. Not gradually. Not one building at a time. Every single light in every single structure activated simultaneously, flooding the area with harsh illumination. The diplomatic team froze, momentarily blinded. When Thexvar's vision adjusted, his crystalline structure nearly shattered from shock. Every human in the settlement was awake. Not just awake. They were already outside, already positioned, already armed. Some held primitive firearms. Others carried tools that could easily be weapons. They had formed a defensive perimeter around the settlement in perfect tactical formation, with overlapping fields of fire and clear command structure. The entire response had taken less than 3 seconds from the moment the shuttle landed. A human male stepped forward from the perimeter. He was older, perhaps 60 years by their aging patterns, with gray hair and weathered skin. He held a rifle pointed at the ground, but his finger was near the trigger. His eyes were completely clear, showing no signs of confusion or disorientation despite having been asleep moments ago. "Identify yourselves," the human said calmly. His voice was steady, controlled, showing no fear at all. Thexvar tried to speak, but his translator device seemed inadequate for the moment. Around the perimeter, more humans had appeared. They moved with coordinated precision, each one taking a specific position, each one maintaining clear lines of sight. There was no chaos, no panic, no confusion whatsoever. "I said identify yourselves," the human repeated. This time his voice carried an edge of command that made Thexvar's survival instinct scream warnings. "We are peaceful," Thexvar finally managed. "We come from the Galactic Council. We wish only to establish diplomatic relations." At 2 a.m. "By sneaking into our town while we slept," the human said flatly. "Try again." Another human, a younger female, spoke from the perimeter. "Sheriff Roy, we have visual confirmation of their ship. It is still in the field. Engine signatures match nothing in our databases." Sheriff Roy. The human had a title. These primitive beings had maintained command structure even while unconscious. "How did you know we were here?" Thexvar asked, genuinely confused. "Your sensors cannot detect our technology. We monitored your communications. There was no alarm." Sheriff Roy smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. "Son, every person in this town has been awake since your ship entered our atmosphere 14 minutes ago. We heard it, felt it. The birds stopped singing. The dogs started acting strange. And some of us just knew something was wrong." "Impossible," one of Thexvar's security officers said. "You were all asleep. Our scans confirmed it." "Were we?" Sheriff Roy gestured at the perimeter. Every human stood alert, weapons ready, eyes focused. Or were we just resting with our eyes closed? Thexvar finally understood the warnings. These humans had not needed time to wake up, get dressed, grab weapons, and organize a defense. They had been aware the entire time. Their brains had been tracking the shuttle from the moment it entered the atmosphere. While their bodies rested, their minds had been analyzing the threat, planning responses, coordinating without speaking. "We mean you no harm," Thexvar said, and he was surprised to hear fear in his own voice. "That is good," Sheriff Roy replied. "Because we absolutely mean you harm if you take one step closer to this town. Now you have a choice. Get back in your ship and leave. Or we can test whether your technology is faster than 300 humans who really do not appreciate strangers sneaking up on them in the dark." "This is absurd," Thexvar's security officer said. "We have weapons that could—" "Chief," the young female human interrupted. "I have 17 separate firing solutions on their ship. Confirmed with Jake, Teresa, and Molly. We can disable it before they reach the ramp." Sheriff Roy had not looked away from Thexvar. "Your choice. Make it now." Thexvar made the only logical decision. "We are leaving. Diplomatic team, return to the shuttle immediately." They walked backward across the field, none of them willing to turn away from the armed humans. The settlers maintained their perimeter, tracking every movement with weapons and eyes that never wavered. When the diplomatic team reached their shuttle and scrambled aboard, Thexvar looked back one final time. The humans were already melting back into the darkness, returning to their homes with the same coordinated precision they had shown appearing. Within seconds, the settlement looked exactly as it had when they landed. Quiet, dark, peaceful. But now Thexvar knew the truth. Those humans were not sleeping. They were never sleeping. They were waiting, with eyes that only pretended to close, for threats they practiced defeating every single night of their lives. The shuttle lifted off and raced back to orbit. Behind them, in a small Montana settlement, Sheriff Roy returned to his bed. His wife was already asleep again, her breathing slow and steady. He lay down beside her, closed his eyes, and within minutes appeared completely unconscious. But in his brain, neural patterns danced and shifted, running through everything that had just happened, analyzing what the aliens might do next, preparing responses for scenarios that might never occur. Just like every other human on the planet, Sheriff Roy practiced warfare in his sleep. Earth only pretended to rest. And now the galaxy was beginning to understand why that was terrifying. Kelthrin sat in his research chamber aboard the Quiet Observer, surrounded by holographic displays showing data from 47 extinct civilizations. The failed contact mission had shaken everyone on the ship, but for Kelthrin, it had provided the final piece of a terrifying puzzle. "I was wrong," he said aloud, though no one else was in the room. "We were all wrong about what the warnings meant." Vixenale entered the chamber, her scales still showing stress patterns from the previous night. "The Council is demanding a full report. Thexvar is claiming the humans were aggressive and hostile." "They were not aggressive," Kelthrin said quietly. "They were aware. There is a difference." He gestured at the displays around him. I have been analyzing the timeline of these extinct civilizations. I thought they left warnings about encountering humans. But that is not what happened at all. Then what did happen? Kelthrin pulled up a star chart showing the locations where each extinct civilization had lived. Notice the pattern. These civilizations did not die in their home systems. They died while exploring, while expanding, while colonizing new worlds. Many species die during expansion, Vixenael said. Space is dangerous. Yes, but look at the specific locations where they went extinct. Kelthrin highlighted several systems. These are all within 200 light-years of Earth. Every single one. And they all died during the same phase of human development. He brought up a timeline of human history, crude and assembled from long-range observations. 8,000 years ago humans developed agriculture. 6,000 years ago they built cities. 4,000 years ago they created writing. And 3,000 years ago, several advanced civilizations in this region suddenly went extinct, all leaving warnings about Earth. You think humans were spacefaring 3,000 years ago? Vixenael sounded skeptical. No, Kelthrin said. I think humans were visited 3,000 years ago. And I think the visitors never went home. He pulled up analysis of human mythology and ancient texts. Stories of beings descending from the sky. Tales of gods with strange powers. Legends of visitors who came, stayed briefly, and then vanished. Every human culture has these stories, Kelthrin explained. We dismissed them as primitive religion. But what if they were memories? What if multiple species came to Earth, made contact, and then disappeared? Disappeared how? Kelthrin brought up the neural scan data from human sleep patterns. Let me explain what makes humans truly different. Most predators on Earth hunt by being faster or stronger than their prey. Humans are neither. An average human is slower than most prey animals. Weaker than most predators. They have no claws, no fangs, no natural armor. Then how did they become the dominant species? Vixenael asked. Persistence, Kelthrin said. Humans evolved to chase prey for days without stopping. They would track an animal until it collapsed from exhaustion. This required incredible endurance, but it also required something else. It required the ability to rest while remaining aware. He showed footage of human persistence hunting, recorded by anthropologists studying ancient techniques. A human male jogging slowly after an antelope. The antelope would sprint away, then stop to rest. The human would catch up, and the antelope would sprint again. This continued for 8 hours until the antelope physically could not run anymore. The prey needed deep rest to recover, Kelthrin explained. But humans developed the ability to rest while a part of their brain stayed alert. They could sleep lightly, wake instantly, continue pursuit. Over thousands of generations, this became their primary survival strategy. This explains the neural patterns we observed, Vixenael said slowly. But what does this have to do with extinct civilizations? Kelthrin's limbs twisted with agitation. Now imagine that same persistence hunting strategy applied to space travel. A species comes to Earth. They are technologically superior. They can travel between stars. They have advanced weapons. But then they make contact with humans and humans become interested in them. He pulled up theoretical models based on what they now knew about human psychology. Humans are curious. Intensely curious. If aliens landed on Earth 3,000 years ago, humans would have wanted their technology, their knowledge, their ships. And humans would have pursued that goal with the same persistence they used to hunt prey. You think humans hunted aliens? Vixenael's scales rippled with disbelief. I think humans studied them, Kelthrin said. Learned their patterns. Discovered their weaknesses. And I think they did this while appearing primitive and harmless. Just like that settlement appeared to be sleeping peacefully until we landed. He showed her more data. Look at the progression of human technology over the past 3,000 years. There are strange jumps. Sudden advances that do not fit normal development patterns. Metallurgy that appeared fully formed. Mathematical concepts that emerged from nowhere. Navigation techniques that should have taken centuries to develop but appeared in just decades. You think they reverse-engineered alien technology? I think they learned from visitors who stayed too long, Kelthrin said. And I think those visitors died here. Not from violence necessarily. But from exhaustion. From being studied constantly by a species that never stopped observing, never stopped learning, never truly slept. He brought up linguistic analysis of human languages. Human languages are incredibly diverse, but they all have loan words. Words borrowed from other languages. Most of these we can trace historically. But there are some words, technical terms and concepts, that appears simultaneously across multiple cultures with no clear origin. Words borrowed from alien visitors, Vixenale whispered. Now look at the warnings again. Kelthrin displayed the 47 messages. They do not say humans are dangerous in combat. They say Earth sleeps but watches. They say the sleeping world waits. They are warning about what happens when you let humans observe you while thinking you are safe. He pulled up more analysis. I studied the extinct civilizations carefully. The Valkyrie had advanced energy weapons but poor endurance. They needed long rest cycles to recharge. The ancient Thras were powerful but slow to adapt to new situations. The Krelix were intelligent but could not function well without specific environmental conditions. Each species had a weakness, Vixenale said. Each species had a weakness that humans evolved specifically to exploit, Kelthrin corrected. Humans outlast species that need rest. Humans adapt faster than species that rely on routine. Humans thrive in varied environments while other species need specific conditions. It is as if humans evolved to hunt spacefaring civilizations. That is impossible. Humans evolved on Earth, isolated from the galaxy. Did they? Kelthrin pulled up genetic analysis of humans compared to other Earth species. Human DNA is remarkably flexible. They have genes that activate under stress, genes that remain dormant until needed, genes that seem to serve no purpose until specific environmental pressures appear. It is almost as if they evolved to be universal predators. Vixenale stared at the data in growing horror. You are saying humans are naturally evolved to hunt alien species. I am saying that every species that came to Earth thinking humans were primitive and harmless discovered too late that humans were watching them every moment, learning from them constantly, even while appearing to sleep. And eventually those species either fled or died. The ones that fled left warnings. The ones that stayed became resources for human advancement. Kelthrin showed her one final piece of evidence. Deep scans of Earth's geology had revealed anomalies. Pieces of refined metals buried in layers thousands of years old. Alloys that could not be natural. Traces of elements that did not exist naturally on Earth. Pieces of ships, Vixenale said. Pieces of civilizations that thought they could safely visit a sleeping world, Kelthrin agreed. The warnings were not about humans being violent. They were about humans being patient, observant, persistent. While an alien visitor slept, humans were awake, studying them, learning their technology, discovering their weaknesses. And when the visitors tried to leave? I suspect they found that humans had learned enough to follow them. Or to prevent them from leaving. Or simply to make staying seem like a better option until it was too late. Kelthrin closed the displays. Earth does not sleep. It watches. And everything that stays too long eventually becomes part of what makes humans stronger. Vixenale looked down at the planet below, seeing it differently now. 47 civilizations had made contact with Earth. 47 civilizations had left warnings. And 47 civilizations were now extinct, their technology possibly absorbed into human development, their weaknesses catalogued by a species that practiced hunting scenarios every single night. We need to leave, she said. Yes, Kelthrin agreed. Before humans decide they are interested in our technology. Before we stay long enough for them to learn our weaknesses. Before Earth stops pretending to sleep and shows us what it has been practicing all this time. The quiet observer prepared to depart Earth orbit immediately. But down on the planet, in cities and settlements across the world, humans slept peacefully, their brains running through scenarios involving alien visitors, practicing responses, preparing strategies. They had been doing this for 3,000 years, getting better every night, waiting patiently for the galaxy to come back. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session 3 days after the quiet observer fled Earth orbit. Kelthrin and Vixenale stood before the assembled delegates, presenting their findings to a chamber that grew quieter and more disturbed with each piece of evidence. We recommend immediate quarantine of the Sol system, Kelthrin concluded. No contact. No observation. Complete avoidance until we understand more about human capabilities. Council member Thexvar's crystalline form flickered with agitation. This is an overreaction. They are primitive. We saw their cities, their technology. They burn fossil fuels for energy. They use radio waves for communication. They are centuries behind us. That is what they want us to think, Vixenale said. Before anyone could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the council chamber. The head of Galactic Communications, a floating being named Oryx, materialized in the center of the room. We have received a transmission, Oryx announced, his voice carrying urgency. It is coming from Earth. It is addressed to this council. and it is using our own communication protocols. The chamber fell into shocked silence. Earth should not have been able to send messages across interstellar distances. They certainly should not have known galactic communication protocols. Play it, the council leader ordered. The holographic display activated, showing a human female sitting in a simple chair. She appeared to be in her 50s, with dark hair touched with gray, wearing formal clothing. Behind her stood the flags of various human nations. She looked directly at the camera with calm, intelligent eyes. "Greetings to the Galactic Council," she said in perfect galactic common language. "My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. I am the director of the United Earth Contact Initiative. We have been expecting you." Thexvar made a sound like shattering glass. Around the chamber, other delegates showed various signs of shock and confusion. "We are aware you have been observing our planet for approximately 3 weeks," Dr. Chen continued. "We tracked your vessel from the moment it entered our solar system. We monitored your scans, your communications, and your analysis of our civilization. We knew when you decided to make contact and we prepared accordingly." She paused, letting that information settle. "We apologize if our response in Montana seemed aggressive. Sheriff Roy and his community are good people, but they do not appreciate unexpected visitors in the middle of the night. I'm sure you understand." Vixenale felt her scales go cold. Dr. Chin spoke as if she had been briefed on every detail of their mission. "You are probably wondering how we detected your stealth technology," Dr. Chin said as if reading their thoughts. "The answer is simple. We have been detecting visitors for a very long time. Your vessel was actually the 32nd galactic ship to observe Earth in the past century. We have tracked all of them." The council chamber erupted in discussion. 32 ships? Impossible. The galactic records showed no authorized missions to Earth beyond the quiet observer. Dr. Chin smiled slightly. "Yes, 32 different vessels from 17 different civilizations. Most were scout ships. A few were research vessels like yours. 2 were commercial expeditions hoping to establish mining operations in our outer solar system. We cataloged them all." She gestured, and a holographic display appeared beside her showing ship designs. The council delegates recognized their own vessels among the images. Some were from species that had not authorized any Earth missions at all. "We did not make contact with any of these visitors," Dr. Chin explained. "We simply observed them just as they observed us. We learned about your technology, your languages, your cultures. We have been studying the galaxy for much longer than you realize." Kelthrin felt understanding dawn. "The radio signals," he whispered to Vixenelle. "We thought they were just broadcasting randomly into space." "We have been listening for a century," Dr. Chin confirmed, again seeming to know exactly what they were thinking. "Every ship that passed through our system left electromagnetic traces. Every communication leaked information. You sent probes throughout our solar system thinking we could not detect them. But we could. And we studied everything you left behind." She stood up, walking slowly across the frame. "You discovered that human brains remain active during sleep. That we run constant simulations and maintain awareness even when resting. What you did not realize is that our entire civilization operates the same way. While we appeared primitive and isolated, we were watching the galaxy. Learning. Preparing." "This is impossible," Thexvar said aloud in the council chamber. "Their technology cannot detect our stealth systems?" Dr. Chen's voice came through clearly. The transmission was two-way. She could hear them. "Council member Thexvar, your concern is understandable. But humans did not become the dominant species on our planet by having the sharpest claws or the strongest bodies. We became dominant by being aware when others thought we were ignorant. By being prepared when others thought we were vulnerable." She returned to her chair. "You have been analyzing warnings from 47 extinct civilizations. You want to know what happened to them? I can tell you." The council chamber was absolutely silent now. "They came to Earth at various times over the past 3,000 years, Dr. Chin said. Some came peacefully. Others came to conquer or exploit. All of them made the same mistake. They assumed that because we appeared primitive we were not dangerous. They stayed too long. They let us observe them. They taught us without realizing they were teaching us." She pulled up historical records, showing artifacts that human archaeologists had classified as unexplained. Pieces of metal with unusual composition. Stone carvings showing impossible astronomical knowledge. Ancient texts describing visitors from the sky. "We learned metallurgy from the Valkyrie," Dr. Chin said. "They landed in what you call the Middle East 4,000 years ago. They thought they were gods to primitive humans. They did not realize we were studying their tools, their ships, their technology. When they finally understood what we were doing, they tried to leave. But by then we had learned enough to track them, to follow them. They left warnings for others, but they were too late to save themselves. You hunted them, Kelthrin said quietly. We learned from them, Dr. Chin corrected. There is a difference. We did not attack them with weapons. We simply pursued them with the same persistence we used to survive on our own world. We followed them from system to system, always learning, always adapting. Eventually, they made mistakes because they were exhausted, because they were desperate, because they could not rest knowing we were always watching. She showed more records. The ancient Thros, who taught humans advanced mathematics. The Krelix, who showed humans how to harness electrical power. The Dorn Collective, who accidentally revealed the principles of faster-than-light travel. Dozens of species, all contributing to human knowledge, all eventually vanishing from the galaxy. We did not destroy them, Dr. Chin said. But we learned everything they had to teach. And when they left, they were changed. Diminished. Some returned to their homeworlds and never recovered their confidence. Others simply disappeared into unexplored space. But all of them left the same warning because they all experienced the same thing. They met a species that appeared to be sleeping but was actually watching. Waiting. Learning. She leaned forward, her expression serious. Which brings us to today. The Galactic Council has a choice to make. You can declare Earth a threat and attempt quarantine. You can try to prevent us from joining galactic civilization. Or you can accept that we are already part of that civilization. We have been for decades. We simply chose not to announce ourselves until we were ready. Ready for what? The council leader asked. Ready to engage on our own terms? Dr. Chin replied. Humans do not want to be clients or subjects or junior partners. We want to be equals. We have earned that right by studying you while you thought we were primitive. By learning your languages, your technologies, your cultures. By being patient enough to wait for the right moment. She stood again. The warnings your archives contain are accurate. Earth does only pretend to sleep. We are always aware, always preparing, always ready. But that does not mean we are hostile. It means we are careful, cautious, strategic. These are survival traits, not aggressive ones. What are you proposing? Vixenale asked. Full diplomatic relations, Dr. Chin said. Technology exchange on equal terms. Cultural sharing. Trade. Everything that normal galactic civilizations do with each other. But with one condition. You treat us as equals from the beginning. No patronizing. No assumptions of superiority because you achieved spaceflight before us. We may be newer to the stars, but we have been preparing for this moment for a very long time. The council delegates looked at each other with various expressions of shock, concern, and grudging respect. Humans had outmaneuvered them completely. While the council thought they were observing a primitive world, that world had been studying them right back. If we refuse? Thexvar asked. Dr. Chin smiled, and it was the same expression Sheriff Roy had shown in Montana. Patient. Knowing. Slightly dangerous. Then we continue as we have been. Watching. Learning. Growing stronger. Eventually we will achieve everything we need on our own. We'll just take longer. We are very good at being patient. We practice it every single night. The council voted 3 hours later. The motion passed with only 2 opposing votes. Earth would be welcomed into the galactic community as a full member civilization, with all rights and privileges thereof. As Dr. Chen's transmission ended and the council adjourned, Kelthrin found Vixenale staring at the star charts showing Earth's location. They were never sleeping, she said quietly. No, Kelthrin agreed. They were waiting. And now they are awake. The galaxy is going to change very quickly. On Earth, Dr. Chen closed the transmission and allowed herself a small smile. Around her, other members of the Contact Initiative began preparing for official first contact. They had been ready for this day for 50 years, ever since the first alien probe entered their solar system and humans decided to learn everything they could before revealing themselves. That night, billions of humans went to sleep across the planet. And in their dreams they practiced new scenarios. Meeting alien species. Negotiating treaties. Navigating galactic politics. Preparing for a future among the stars that they had been watching, studying, and planning for since long before anyone realized Earth was awake. The warnings had been right all along. Earth only pretended to sleep. But the galaxy was just beginning to understand what happened when the sleeping world finally decided to wake up.